Om Dhyan Yoga Nagata Pasyan Devatma Shaktim Svagunayar Nagunam Yahakaranani Nikilani Tani Kalatma Yuktanya Haridishtat Yekaha Om Shantihi Shantihi Shantihi. Practicing the yoga of meditation. The ancient seers of India beheld the Devatma Shaktim, the divine energy, existing everywhere and in everything, which, though veiled by its own modes of nature, the three gunas, was nevertheless one and indivisible, and which had been incomprehensible to them earlier due to the limitation of their own intellects. Om peace, peace, peace. May that one indivisible being protect us. May that one being sustain us. May it illumine our thinking consciousness. Reveal to us the essence of the scriptures. Om peace, peace, peace. Peace be unto us. Peace be unto all. Om Hari Om, Hari Om, Hari Om Tat Sat. So here on our Sunday class, after Saturday's presentation of Vedanta's yoga, Vedanta's Sadanga Yoga, which is a chart I'll refer to today that we looked at when we were studying the Akshi Upanisad. And that brings us to this beautiful chant that I just recited about the Devatma Shaktim, how the Raja Yoga system, one of the four yogas, for those of you who are not under the hypnotism of Hatha Yoga, then you should know those four yogas are Jnanam, Bhakti, Karma, and Raja, the Raja Yoga system. So I was thinking about that in meditation this morning, and I thought of this quote by my teacher, Swami Shishananda, from the Vedanta Society of Portland, just about less than a mile up the hill behind us here, where I studied Vedanta in my 20s onward. And he said this at one point from the podium: the West has not accepted the Raja Yoga method. They've accepted the physical yoga only. If this method of Raja Yoga is accepted, then you will inevitably contemplate Shakti. What is Kundalini Shakti? By splitting an atom with the help of a reactor using uranium or plutonium, you can release its bottled up power and cause death and destruction. However, Sri Ramakrishna stands not for nuclear power, he stands for spiritual energy, the Devatma Shakti. This infinite, intelligent energy is conscious, constructive, creative, blissful, and beneficent. Through her, one does not cause death. Through her, one conquers it. So, give you a little idea of why so many of us, finding out that he was the last living direct disciple of Sri Sharda Devi, the Holy Mother, Sri Ramakrishna's spiritual consort, that we found him, in my case, right here where I grew up in Portland, Oregon. He was here in 1949. I was born in 1950. So I was across the river there. So I had to ford that river. And I always look at that river now as the river of samsara, where I had to come out of this Western hypnotism towards material things, physical things only, and with its penchant for occult powers. One of those is war and destruction, like splitting the atom. So I couldn't find anyone who thought like that. So at one time I thought that I was really not a part of everything and didn't want to be a part of what was going on, until I found him and I heard him speak and say things like that right across the river a few miles away from me. And then grew up with that supreme philosophy of Advaita Vedanta that has no match. Another quote from him, he said that, and following in the line of Swami Vivekananda, who said that the Advaita Vedanta will be the future religion of mankind. There will be no doubt about that. So first then we have this river to cross in the West, and it's got various names in India: River of Death, River of Rebirth, River of Samsara, that Lord Buddha talked about, the wheel of transmigration and so forth. And so we're going to have to use a special power to transcend the intellectual frame of reference that we find ourselves caught in the West. So advanced in so many different material sciences, but mere infants yet teething on physical things. And then we find it comes the same in yoga, that is, in spiritual life, that we have to reach down into ourselves and uncover this Devatma Shaktim, this divine power that is there in everything, hiding in plain sight, I think is the expression, and propitiate her, bring her up. So you can say, well, that's the Kundalini Yoga that Swami Shishanandaji Maharaj, peace and blessings be upon him, is just mentioned here. But he would be the first to caution you about it not being in the body, that it's in the subtle body. And so you're going to have to find out the source of everything. And you remember yesterday how we looked at a little vision I shared with you. If you could just flash that once again for us to get us started on yesterday's course, where we ended off. And so there are many, many other quotes of Swami Shishanandaji I've gathered here and put on 10 charts of their own called Advaita Vedanta in a Jivan Mukta, because he always was talking about India's Jivan Muktas, like that India has seen many Jesuses, many Christs come and go, called avatars. And this Jivan Mukta and the witness consciousness that attends it is rather in a penultimate state for attaining that. And so Swami Shishanandaji would say, where's your Jivan Mukta? I don't see him, look at us as we sat, as you're sitting looking at me. You have to produce a Jivan Mukta. And in order to do that, you're going to have to go beyond the intellectual frame of reference. So by this practice of Raja Yoga, one of the 4 great yogas, is how you immediately start connecting with the Devatma Shakti, the subtle power. It's just she won't take cheap bribes, one song in India says. She only accepts the 100% unadulterated, unconditional love of the heart. And then she'll show herself. And if you try and force the issue, then she hides, like she's been doing for 1,000-year periods, for millennia, hiding behind, say, a male-dominated religion, or behind the facade of Maya, which simultaneously is a filter to keep people away from the divine secret, unless they're very serious about it. And the West is a good example of how people hear some little bit of truth and then become like straw on fire, as Swami Vivekananda called us when he got here. He's very impressed with our advancement in science and all of that. So, but he knew that we hadn't yet touched upon the Paravidya. We were still dabbling in the Aparavidya, lower knowledge. And as we dabbled in the lower knowledge, he saw that that there was a risk of falling back into the temptation of occult powers. The first one is like domination. These are ancient, the 8 occult powers. There are actually teachers here today from India who promote the occult powers. And but everyone from Ram to Krishna to Ramakrishna has denied them. It's not if you want spirituality, then you're going to have to go to the Devatma Shakti and give all power to her. Because she holds the real power of everything. Like Ramakrishna said, without her, I can't even lift my arm. So great thinkers think with that great power of Devatma Shakti. She's present in every word as the Vak Devi. She's the power that's in the word that causes comprehension of the word, that causes uttering of the word, causes the coupling of words, causes libraries of words to spring up. But her favorite wisdom is that special Paravidya, or sometimes called Advaita Vedanta. And that's the special thread, sutra, dara, that she holds running underneath everything that weaves it all together. See, walking around with a piece of clothing on, you see, and there's a little thread sticking out, and someone says, oh, you have a thread, pulls it, and the whole thing falls apart. So there's one controlling thread in everything, sutra, dara, and we're studying Patanjali's sutras today through the lens of Advaita Vedanta, called the Darshanopanisad. And also some months ago through the Akshi Upanisad, and before that, the Amrita Nada Upanishad. And all of them are going like this to us. 5 sthanas of yoga, 5 chakras, not 7. 5 limbs of yoga, or 6, not 8, you see. So where some of these Upanishads start off is that if you've even heard the truth in a previous lifetime, and you got it all serious about it, and you became sincere around tracking it down, like I just chanted, the ancient seers of India through the yoga of meditation, Dhyan Yoga, which is Raja Yoga, all of a sudden in their meditations they beheld her, this divine power. She came forth when we were ready, see, when the soul is ready. She shows herself as the light in everything. That is the light of understanding, not just physical light again. We have to caution ourselves all the time when we hear these teachings. Oh, they don't mean the physical. Oh, they don't mean the physical. Oh, they don't mean the physical. And that's got to be true of the limbs of yoga, and it's got to be true of the lotuses or chakras of Kundalini yoga, which we'll study next week on retreat, that they're in the subtle body, not in the physical body. And the essence of them aren't even in the subtle body. They're transcendent of all bodies. That's absolute reality, or pure conscious awareness, or Advaita, or what causes nirvana, or satori, or samadhi, which is the 8th limb that Patanjali, the father of yoga, has been sharing with us since he composed and put together this most recent form of yoga, I'm calling it. That's Raja Yoga. After Raja Yoga, there was a great downfall. And until Shankara and Vedavyas came along, then we got a pointer at the true yoga again. So, and then when it came to the West, there it was, the problem with occult powers, with the physical, with domination, with violence, with attainment of powers for the ego's sake, for the sake of pleasure, and for the sake of ownership and agency. But who was on the scene then to warn us? Swami Vivekananda was on the scene in 1893 at the Parliament of Religions to tell us about this. And marvelously, what did he do after he presented us this greatest philosophy that man ever knew, quote unquote, the Advaita Vedanta. He made a commentary on Raja Yoga to go with it. Have you ever put it together that way? So he wrote on the 4 yogas, because he said, my great discovery in this age, of course, he wasn't claiming ownership or newness of it, because there's nothing new under the sun. But in this age, it was new. This Kali Yuga all of a sudden comes marching forth what Krishna taught in the Bhagavad Gita when he called it Chaturdasha Yoga, the 4 great yogas. And that was that there are these 4 yogas, and they should be the new religion of this age, in order to escape the problem of denominations, religions who are now just warring with each other, not just different religions, inside the same religions. Catholics and Protestants, for instance, warring for 600 years in the same religion. So it's obviously we can't go to religion and find peace and nonviolence, which are 2 of the mainstays of yoga, right? And truth, Satyam. Where are we going to find that amongst warring factions who can't even get along with them themselves, can't even live in the same place in 2 different or 3 different rooms and get along and help each other? So yesterday we looked at those limbs under the great scrutinizing inward gaze of one of the greatest of all rishis, Dattatreya. So here we find him, we come upon him as we look through the 108 Upanishads. And he's got Samkriti as his disciple. So that was that great sage that was studying with the sun god in an earlier Upanishad. We came upon him studying with the sun god. And that great being who gives us our flood of days, grants us our flood of days, as he eulogized the sun god. And now we find him as a student of Dattatreya. So in whatever portion of history that happened, in whatever order of things, you can see that Samkriti is like this like our founder, Lex Sixon of SRV associations here, always looking for anyone who would talk about the Dharma, and it didn't matter which religion it was in. He himself, of course, came forward as a student of Swami Nikhilananda in New York, and led me to my teacher, Swami Shishananda, here in Portland, both devotees of the Divine Mother, direct disciples of Holy Mother when she was still living. So you see, Samkriti is this avid pursuer of truth. And he's already an advanced, adept, maybe even masterful yogi. We read that yesterday. Although expert in yoga, he became a disciple of Dattatreya, and he said to him, please explain to me the science of yoga with its 8 branches and its 5 sthanas, its 5 positions. So this is good to follow up on this after having studied Amritanadu Upanishad, in which we find it called Sadanga, 6-limbed. So this is simultaneously how flexible they are with yoga, and at the same time always concentrating on the authentic form of yoga. So if you're to believe my teacher then, and the quote I just read from him is that we haven't accepted the Raja Yoga method yet, means that we have to go back at least as far as the 6-limbed yoga in the Upanishads, because Upanishad is Vedanta, Veda, Anga, right? Veda, Anga. So the limbs, there are the limbs of the Vedas, but then Vedanta, Vedanta, there's the end portion of the Vedas. And that's the Upanishads. That's the fourth phase of Vedas as they came to us through history, they say. So in this way, we're looking into the Upanishads as our great guide, as we should, attended upon teachings from the Bhagavad Gita. And then for those of us who have the depth and the wherewithal and the patience and the time, look into the Brahma Sutras. Those are the three great landmarks in scriptural history. I'd say in the whole world, but at least say in India. So in that way, we have recourse to the revealed scriptures. Shrutihe shatagunam vidyan mananam mananadapi. You should hear the truth, the shruti, and then you should reflect on it, mananam, and mananadapi, then nididhyasanam, you should realize it. Or if you want to put it that way, you could also say, Vedanta Siddhanta Niruktiresha Brahmaiva Jivaham Sakalam Jakadcha Akanda Rupa Stitir Eva Moksha Brahmadvitiye Shrutayaha Pramanam. That is the final conclusion of the revealed scriptures, that all is this is Brahman. These great sayings come forward to us from the revealed scriptures then, which Lord Vashishta, probably one of the great honorable holders of the original yoga back in Ram's time, that's long before Krishna, Ramchandra, don't forget about him when you're writing up your most recent story on your websites. Don't forget about Ramchandra, who preceded Krishna by an age and who was taught by Vashishta. Yes, that same Vashishta whose scripture is called Yoga Vashishta. And what he said in Yoga Vashishta to the young teenage avatar of that age, he was only one of 12 people who knew that God had incarnated again in that age. And so we find it in his care, this great yoga, at a very, very early age. And although a lot of it is lost in time, we can't discern exact, people have different opinions of when it was. Again, by digging into the earth and then finding something and carbon-dating it, then they think they've got the right time. That's the play of the historians and the archaeologists when they get together. But the real purpose of it all is that this is a timeless, because time is in cycles all the time, as Lord Buddha told us. So there's no beginning, middle, and end to anything. Try and find the beginning, middle, and end of the figure eight, or try and find the beginning, middle, and end of a snake that's already swallowed its own tail. It's not going to be easy, you see, because there is no beginning, middle, and end to anything. There's just non-origination. It's all rising and falling in front of the five senses. And if your five senses are impure, the rising and falling is a nightmare. If your five senses are pure, then it's a beautiful dream. But then you have to get beyond all dreams. So showing this is what we did yesterday. There's the mind, and it's got three levels: individual, collective, and cosmic. And you have to envision that mind as seated in something that gives it its power. Because when mind becomes purified, its original mind. So, for instance, in the gospel, you'll hear Sri Ramakrishna answer that great question, you see. Or the statement someone makes, see, well, God can't be realized by the mind, so this person must have heard, and reasoned it out and said, well, yes, that's what they say. But Sri Ramakrishna said, no, it can't be realized by the ordinary mind. But the pure mind is God. See, so this original mind, which symbolically spells Om, O-M, is that pristine vibration, or you might call the unstruck sound. It's rather like a vibrationless vibration, out of which everything is rising and falling, rising and falling. Now, if you go towards a sort of philosophical look at things where you want to undermine everything, oh, I want to negate this, I want to negate that, I want to negate this. Well, that's good for a time. So you can negate things that are unreal, like the kleshas, like the passions, things that are based in ignorance. As you take away all the elements, 5 elements, and you take away the tanmatras from which they came. Like, I smelled a tanmatra of my shirt being ironed the other day. Someone was ironing a shirt, you see. But that happened before the event. See? So everything in the tanmatras, it precedes the actual manifestation of senses and objects. That's where it came from. That's its source of origin, at least as far as it goes, until you get to the originless, all-knowing. One moment in time instead of time going on in phases. So in that way, this mind is sitting back, is in its original state, and it's in charge of everything that goes on here. And it's in charge of it under the behest of the Devatma Shakti, the Divine Mother of the universe. I can't even lift my arm without her. Well, that's an understatement, you see. The world can't even be the world without her. Maya can't operate without her. If you want to try and find a source for Maya, then it's poisoned in the snake. It's not like Maya is a separate reality from Brahman. And it's not like you're separate from Brahman either. That's wrong thinking. That's incomplete thinking. Everything is one with Brahman. If take the worlds away, Brahman still exists. Take Brahman away, the worlds don't exist. So you can't end up with a nihilistic philosophy like some schools have done in India. They thought themselves into a deep hole. And all of a sudden, Mother disappears from, okay, jump in the hole and have fun, kids. I'm out of here, you see. Because I exist. And I tried to tell you that when I gave you the Mahavakyas. Aham Brahmasmi, I am Brahman. Tattvam si, that Brahman art thou. Aham Brahmasmi, and I am Atma Brahma. This very self is Brahman. See, there's no difference, no line of demarcation between God and mankind. As one of Sri Ramakrishna's devotees put it so well. So think about this great mind in its cosmic, at its cosmic level. The Mahat, according to Father of Yoga, is one of the last things you'll hold as a Lanambana, right? You'll start with the 5 elements, air, earth, water, all those earth, water, fire, air, and ether to take them from gross to subtle. Mate them up with your senses, and then connect them to the mind with the tanmatras are there. And by the time you're doing this inward process, which later on got called dissolution of the mind, but in the meantime was just meditating on facts known to everyone. You're walking around the earth, you're moving through the 5 elements, all of a sudden the 5 elements disappear, and you're thinking house, you see, bed, food, chair. You're not thinking earth anymore. You're thinking alcoholic drinks, intoxicants for my mind, you see. Like some of these so-called teachers that you're admiring on the web, loaded up with different kinds of drugs in their heads, feeding their minds with intoxicants and calling it okay. That's not a Dharma teacher. And other people coming along, well, they're Atman too. No, you're not Atman too. You realize you're Atman. I've got a new mantra for you. You don't have to accept what's going on there just because Brahman's in everything. Brahman's in everything, but have you realized Brahman in everything yet? And are you acting like it? So anyway, you're thinking drinks and intoxications and parties like I saw on my way over here. But you're not thinking water. What's the best drink of all? Bar none. Is pure fresh water. Right from the well, which is in the earth. Warm it up, turn it into a nice healing tea, you've got fire, you see. Smell it, you've got air. Touch it on your tongue, you've got taste. And all of this is preceded by consciousness, you see. Consciousness is running in and through it all before the thing itself even gets projected. It never gets created. Nothing can be created. It always comes from a seed. And then the seed has to go through periods. You've seen it happening out here. Seed in the earth. Well, then what does it take? Water. Then what does it take? Fire, air, atmosphere, hopefully unpolluted. And then it leads you to the great realization that ether, you see, but then you get trapped in space. You see, oh, that's ether up there, because there's no oxygen. But that's just physical ether. And that's hypnotizing you into lifetimes of obsession with dead planets. Well, it's a place that 5 elements don't even occur up there to support life. You've got everything you want right here. And so you come down here to earth and you take on a body, and then immediately you turn around and you pray to God, give me everything. But he already gave you everything. If you want, as a matter of speaking, actually you and billions of minds at the collective level prayed for this and got it. And then you already have it and you start making a muck of it. What's that about? Polluting the great Maha Panchabhutas, the great 5 elements. But my point here more is that they disappear behind things. Behind your attachment to things, they disappear even further. So you're not seeing the essence of the thing. And pretty soon you're making jokes about it. Oh, that yogi is sitting watching a flower bloom, you see. And so that becomes a sort of symbol for enlightenment, you see something. But why he's sitting there and what he's seeing and how he's tracing it, its growth through earth, air, fire, water, and ether, and how it blossoms to him is to him a great wonder, you see, because he's got a pure mind. So pure mind can see Brahman. So Sri Ramakrishna would say, no, ordinary mind cannot see it. You're right on that score. But you must think in terms of a pure mind, pure senses, and a pure body too, see. Now, go to Krishna looking for Hatha Yoga, it's not there in the Gita. What is there? What's the greatest physical austerity, according to him? Doing a puja. It's not fasting. He says a few things about food, how to eat right and food, and immediately you're on this whole thing about fasting or feasting. His instructions are purely spiritual, and being spiritual first, then they can be practical. So your physical austerities are austerity of speech. That's the greatest of all of the 5 elements, ether. And it's also connected to the ear, see, hearing. Ether holds everything in it and interpenetrates everything. Air can't do that. So ether is this greatest of all of the Mahapanchabhutas, and it connects to the sense of hearing. The sense of hearing is the words and what they mean. and how they inspire you and how you can get enlightenment through them. Revealed scriptures. Shall we go back to that again? That I was just saying. Hear the Shruti and then do it honor. Certainly don't do it dishonor. If Lord Brahma's mind is, Dattatreya is saying here yesterday, is Lord Brahman's mind, if you go to him, he'll tell you that control of the senses is Brahman. Basically, isn't it? It says right there what pratyahara is. The greatest of all knowers of Brahmans say that pratyahara is Brahman. I will tell you about pratyahara. Use force and divert your sensory organs away from the travel according to their nature. That is, away to what they normally fall upon. Eyes fall upon objects. So you can divert that course. See? Draw them back in. What did Krishna say? Like a tortoise its limbs. When there's danger, 4 limbs come back inside the shell. That's how Krishna talks about withdrawing the senses from their objects. Those objects, you could say right now, but I thought you said everything was Brahman, you see. But the tortoise hasn't realized the truth yet. It's not a truth tortoise. So it has to be careful. It's a practitioner tortoise. It has to withdraw the senses back because they're not pure yet. They're still afraid of death or clinging to life. That's the 5th and lowest of all hells in yoga, by the way. Abhinivesha, fear of death, clinging to life. So there's the practicality of it. You have to use the lower limbs of yoga where they apply, and then move on. See? Recently, talking to a person who's asking me a question about, well, I don't feel the same feel of elation that I did 30 years ago when I do pranayama. I said, you've been doing pranayama for 30 years? I mean, didn't you just do a few breathing exercises, master your breath, and then go on to the higher limbs? So you have to ask a teacher that 30 years later? Well, in my own experience, I did some asana for a few months until I found a position I liked. I mean, Buddha found a position he liked, and if he hadn't have done that, how could he sit for 49 or so days under the bo tree in order to see through Maya, or what he called Mara, and realize his Buddha nature, become the awakened one. That posture was very necessary. But we heard that posture yesterday being called Sukhasana. So they'll give you a choice, you see, as a concession. See, they're not the body, they don't need postures. They mastered it long ago, but you may need it. So here's a choice of a few. Divine Mother, in the Mother Scriptures, here's 5. It's classic. Here's 5 postures you can try. Then select one and sit in it. Don't just keep manutasting. They do this with postures, asanas. They do this with breathing exercises. They do this with mantras. They do this with gurus. Find a good one, or a good one of each, and then experience it. Go forward. See, you've got guru. The next thing is method. Next thing is mantra. And the next thing is practice. If you have those 4 things, then you can get realization. But you have to adhere, stick to it, stick-to-itiveness in spiritual life. So Sukhasana, Dattatreya is telling Samkriti, get one posture. And we found that's also the case with Shankara. He calls it ekasana. You want one posture. Otherwise the body just becomes like a dead old tree, twisted into different positions. A dead old tree. And I'm still trying to breathe 30 years after it died. You see, your spiritual life doesn't live. It doesn't march forward. It doesn't go to the goal. Gatam, gatam, paragatam. You must go beyond all these lesser goals to the supreme goal, Lord Buddha said. And that's the whole of it. And then once you're there, then you can turn and help others. Sri Sharadadevi said, now you found Sri Ramakrishna, game's over for you. You might not, your mind might not have realized it yet. The game is over. You have your salvation at the very least. Now maybe you want to work on your liberation, because there are some souls who are, her best sons and daughters who have outright freedom. Others are just free from rebirth. But there are other worlds to be born in, inner worlds and so forth. You still might want to play a little bit. You play in the fields of the Lord here. But that might be fine for 40 some years while Jesus is still on earth. But after he leaves, it's not so fun anymore. For 2,000 years of lifetimes, that is. So one posture, one sitting posture, find it, get in it, and then open up to the subtle body, to the mind, because it's the mind that's engaging in the dream. So how does ignorance come to us? You can finally find the answer to that question. It's like ignorance is unfigurable, right? It's like darkness in a cave. It's gone when you bring a light in. Take the light away, it's back again. How does it come to us? Through waking, dreaming, and deep sleep. Those are all dreams. Ramana Maharshi hinted at that. You see, dream number 1, dream number 2. But you're going to have to awaken from all dreams. Be a spiritually awake soul. Like I said in this chant, you see, the seers have yogic insomnia. They've awakened once and for all. They're not falling back to sleep again. Like Rabindranath Tagore's beautiful song, the Nobel Prize winner. Don't fall back to sleep, he sings. Because I was up all night waiting for the Lord, because the Lord told me he would come. So I was up all night. I just took it, 1 minute nap, that's when he knocked. Go figure, that's Maya, you see. That's the bad timing of things. Like for weeks watching the beautiful grasses out in back of my house, you see. Just waiting for those wild boars to come so I could run out there and scare them away so they wouldn't dig up all those grasses. I was on watch all day as I worked, watched. No piggies. See. Then I get a call from my wife last night. They tore up an entire yard just after you left. So I'm thinking pigs are the most terrible things in the world. Probably most Hawaiians would agree with you. But God gave them one thing because they were so terrible. Lucky timing. I swear they have the luckiest timing of any creature around. The hunters can be waiting for them. They'll look away and gossip a little bit. That's when the pig will run by and disappear into the bushes. It's not through smarts or intelligence, you see. So that's Maya. So you're in Maya. You got to. Shit happens, you see, isn't it? And I don't have to have that edited out or have anyone write me and say, you swore on live stream. Shit happens. Shit means thought. And it's from thought in this mind at its 3 levels, which all the problems of the world arise. And all the solutions are also there if you go look for them. Until you find out, like Samkriti is finding out from somebody who found out ultimately in Dattatreya, that problems and solutions are both a part of Maya. That you'll never be able to solve a problem because it's just going to rise and fall. That's this world. That's where you are. That's this sthana. There's either 5 sthanas in yoga locations, or also 5 locations inside of you that are made of ether, the 5th and greatest element. And nobody found out about them with the Thini acumen except India. They're the only ones that'll teach you about that. The rest are calling it heaven, or lokas, or bardos. But these are actually in the order of the great teachings, the Adidaiva Vidya, the ancient original teachings of beings who are teachers of beings like Sri Krishna. They'll tell you about these origins which have no origin. And you're going to have to wait around for a Gaudapada for a while to be able to explain that word to you, a jati, and tell you that inside of a jati, there's no birth, life, and death going on. It's unoriginated. You're unoriginated. Things are unoriginated. They only appear to pass and change. And that appearance is what's called Maya. And that's what hypnotizes people and makes them seek out things in Maya, like the occult powers, like domination over others. But if you go to the tree of yoga, which we looked at, see, you'll find out right at the very beginning not to covet the goods of others. 3rd law of yoga, 3rd yama. Do not covet, asteya, do not covet the goods of others. So we think that these study yoga, yes, they do have a practical application to make your life better and to make the lives of others better. Probably should put that in the opposite direction. Don't think about yourself, think about others. Like Vivekananda said, I can't remember anything I ever did for myself. I did everything in my life for others, because that's how he was taught. In fact, he wasn't even taught that way. He just saw Sri Ramakrishna living that way, and he fell in line with him. So ahimsa, satya, steya, and you think, oh, I know the yamas. You see, I don't need to study them anymore. I don't need to go back on the old teachings and hear this guy sitting in front of me reiterate them over and over again, ad infinitum, ad nauseum. But it's like earth, fire, water, fire, air, and ether. They disappear for you, you see. And you just move through them now. All of a sudden you find out that air you're breathing doesn't smell so good anymore. And you can't breathe like you used to breathe. And what's the cause for that? So better than problems and solutions is cause and effect. Like better than salvation and sin is karma. So the East is thinking in terms of nirvana. West is thinking in terms of salvation. And when the East thinks in terms of nirvana, I have a seminar that I'll teach on this, is why it's occurring to me, right? Because I've been giving it a lot of thought. So when the East thinks about nirvana, that's not something that you attain in the future. It's not something you get through a lot of self-effort. It's not something that springs up new to you. That's the truth you're talking about when you say nirvana or samadhi. That's the way Brahman is. And so you should be that way, if you are Brahman. So why? Does Brahman take drugs? Does Brahman get drunk and go to parties? Does Brahman create war and violence in other people? Does Brahman seek only its own good and not the good of others? Is that your God? Because the God of Vedanta is timeless, deathless, birthless, karmaless, causeless, effectless. It doesn't move, it's actionless. Yo Brahma, Yo Brahmanan Vidadati Purvam. Yo Vai Vidamscha Prahinohi Tasmai. Tan Hadeva Atma Buddhi Prakasha. These are beautiful words, see. Tan Hadeva, O Lord. Atma Buddhi Prakasha. Akasha is space. And Atma Buddhi is that intelligence that infills it all. That's the intelligence of your own Atman. So I go to that Brahman for refuge. I don't go to any world or to any personality or to any substitute. And I certainly don't fall down on any crutch, which will cave in on me as things decay. Stand on your own 2 feet because you're a God walking around on 2 legs, said Swami Vivekananda. Saw some rubbish. I have to explain myself, you see. I do have to look on the web once in a while. That's why I become aware of these things that people are saying and what the way they're thinking, which most of it I don't agree with. Swami Vivekananda wasn't popular, so will I be popular by being his follower? Probably not. So look on the web and you just find some nonsense there, see? Like, oh, Vivekananda was against women's lib. Who got that idea and wrote it up there? See? Certainly hadn't read the 4 yogas, certainly hadn't read all the letters that they've collected that he wrote to his students. And they certainly didn't hear him say that until Shakti is brought into the fore again, the world will never be rejuvenated. India particularly will never be rejuvenated as long as you've got Shakti under the press of your thumb. Which is why Sri Sharda Devi, the Holy Mother, came with Sri Ramakrishna. It's time for that to happen. Time for the avatar not to just have a divine consort, but it was time for the Mother herself to manifest in the perfect form. So I chanted last night at the puja downstairs, O Mother Supreme in human form, granter of boons and bliss, distress of our souls removest thou, givest us contentment and peace. Thy children who bow to thee, do thou makest them content and free. O great Mother of the worlds, be our salutations ever unto thee. So, and a whole bunch of other verses that luminaries chanted about her. Savior of religion in every age, by saints and sages worshipped, O Mother kind. So that Shakti, that Devakma Shakti, that hidden Sutradhara, that presence in everything, that progenitress, that one who grants the 5 elements. It grants the power of the sun to grant the flood of our days, see, as Samkriti has found out. So all of this in this vast sweep of mind, and where's the mind's ignorance? In its divisions. Where else does ignorance hide but in separations? That's why we have to separate and then see the truth and put it back together. That's why we can't say all is Brahman until we realize all is Brahman. We can't give concession to everyone's the Atman, because until they've realized the Atman, they're not acting at all like it. And it'll be at your back door with some atomic explosions. Nuclear missiles pointed at you the whole time. So you can't trust them. You can't trust the ego. You can only trust the Atman. You have to realize it first and do that justice. Otherwise, great souls who are already realized, like Samkriti, wouldn't be going to Dattatreya to find out about 8-limb yoga, which is something that he's already practiced for lifetimes and realized. This is how exacting he is. in his search for any little bit of ignorance that might still be there. Any trace of kleshas, any trace of avidya, any residue of karma that may be in him, any fiber sticking out of the thread so that it's not going to go through that eye of a needle that you hear about. Camel certainly can't get to it, but that's not the trouble Samkriti would have, or the great beings that Lord Vashishta taught. They had a little fiber sticking out still. That happened with Vashishta and Ram. That happened with Lord Buddha when he had to leave the palace. See, they both had this idea that ignorance was real, that suffering was real, and the suffering got to them. But we were just saying problems and solutions, you see. These souls like Dattatreya and others, they're beyond problems and solutions. That's just not the way they're looking at things. They'll look at it that way for you if you have a problem and you need a solution. But they're always trying to steer you up and out of these dualities. Dvandva mohena, pairs of opposites, that are constantly causing you to brood. And as soon as the mind broods, there's the gunas. Tamo guna is just waiting for that to happen, to descend upon the mind. And the only way out of that, they think, the solution is to get active, right? Rajas. So Rajas and Tamas are going together in cahoots, you see, because then Tamas follows Rajas again. You wear yourself out. So where's this balance, sattva, you see, that you want to attain? Because you can get some rejuvenation, some reflection from sattva, but you have to hold it a long time. Because if you hold just mere sattva, it turns into love for pleasure. And you start inventing things that make your life more convenient. How's that going for us lately? So there's this pure sattva that you get, that gets you outside. This is what Lord Brahma and Vishnu and Shiva have. They have this pure sattva. And so people who worship them, they get this pure sattva. They get outside of the three gunas, and all of a sudden they're thinking, scriptures, give me more teachings. I need to have Darshanopanisad. See, I need to have darshan with the Devatma Shakti. Where's the best place to find her? I think we'll go to the sun god and ask him, because he knows about light. So dream, waking, dreaming, deep sleep. See this light coming off in these little letters here? It's called Brahman effulgence. When you're in deep sleep, you're just that close to Brahman. It means everything's formless for you. And the one thing that was the most effective thing of keeping you from your realization of Brahman was your ego. And that's gone in deep sleep. Gone means held in abeyance. So it's like a talkative person. Let's call her Loquacia. So she's really talkative, you see. Somebody comes up behind her and just goes and holds the hand there for a long time. That's what deep sleep's like for the ego. You're just completely canceled out until you start desiring to dream again. And then poof, there's, you see, everything comes back into order, you see. Sancharaha, prati sancharaha, everything starts vibrating again. And your mind is dimmed down to the dream state and is vibrating there, and everything appears. That's where the worlds all appear. But you've just entered into the second and third phase of the word again, and then you're heading for the fourth stage of the word, where everything gets solid again. So as you pass through these four states of the word, there was formlessness, then there was the potential for form. Then all of a sudden, there was all the elements that go to make form: sound, sight, objects, meaning, all floating, unconnected. And then in waking, it all gets connected, and there's the object that you fancy. And then 24 hours goes by, and you've gone back and dissolved it all again. Back to where? Into this dreaming mind. It's constantly doing this, and time goes in cycles with it. It appears to be a beginning, but some great thinker stopped and meditated and said, "Oh, I saw where the snake swallowed its tail. I saw that moment of pralaya where everything went into abeyance. And it wasn't as long a period of abeyance as Mahapralaya. When that happened, everything was gone for a long time. Just like it is for you in deep sleep, until that light of thinking happens to you and you start dreaming. If you could get the light of thinking and direct it towards the Atman, your true self, and witness instead of brood, see, then you would be the witness of all of these three states, Sakshi Bhutam. The Brahman effulgence coming off the deep sleep state would turn into a vision of Divine Mother. See, there she is. You wanted to see her, there she is. Mother Kali, with all her weapons coming through the haze of your deep sleep ignorance, and all her votaries dancing around her, see, singing her praises in her name, and introducing you to the light of Brahman, the light of pure conscious awareness. The Devatma Shaktim finally comes forward in your meditation and makes a huge impression upon you. And so, following the Raja Yoga method, Swami Sheshananda said to me, following the Raja Yoga method, you'll have to begin to find out about Shakti. Pretty soon you'll become a worshiper of Shakti. And here's the rub about that, as you keep the body in this world, is that other beings are also worshiping Shakti, but they're worshiping her in the wrong kind of power. They're worshiping her for destructive power, for power of pleasure, power of domination. These are the eight occult powers. The pure devotee only wants the feet of the Divine Mother. That's all. And these others cause violence, they cause problem, they cause karma. Why would you want them? Just to get a few pathetic little prizes and baubles out of this unreal world that quickly go the way of everything and just get destroyed, as it were. Everything dissolves back into unmanifested prakriti. That's formless nature. And that's what you were doing when you dissolved it all back into deep sleep. It was all going back as seeds. The seeds were watered again. By who? By you and billions of others. And you came back in and you had a dream. And that was heaven. And then you decided, I think I want to go further out, you see, and solidify all of this and see what happens. And you came out to the world of objects, and that was called waking. And you got addicted to this process of waking, dreaming, deep sleep, waking, and you began to call it life. Then Jesus came and said, no, rivers and fishes and nets and wives and loaves of bread and everything, you need an eternal life. So follow me and I'll give you that. Leave those things behind and I'll give you eternal life. And 500 years before him, Buddha was saying the same thing. After he sat for so long under the bo tree. So right now, we're sitting under the tree of yoga, and we're looking at it in different ways. So this great vision of the mind, conjuring up all these things, and its three states, is not empty. There's a kind of emptiness where everything undesirable goes away, but the essence is still left. How can I say it, you see? everything that's undesirable goes away. Everything that's an obstacle to your path goes away. That's shunyata. But even those practitioners and realizers of shunyata have said that that's just a penultimate state to divine reality. If there's shunyata, but there's also Buddha nature behind it. And like I said, you can't negate and negate and negate and negate, and then all of a sudden end up with yourself and negate that, because you're the one that was doing the negating. You're also the one that has to do the affirming or the reaffirming. So once you get rid of all the weeds in the garden, you stand back and admire the vegetables that are growing, and you get nutritious, you see. It's a nutritious way of proceeding. So that's what's behind everything when the mind dissolves, is this divine essence we call Atman. And that's in this light of Brahman. Yo Brahmanan Vidadati Purvam, Yo Vai Vedamsya Prahinohi Tasmai. What does that mean? I have to find out what those words mean and contemplate on them. And then we'll take refuge. I go for refuge to that Supreme Brahman, whose light turns the attention of mankind to the Atman, the indivisible self within. Remember, I said the indivisible self, not the individual self. That's down here as a dream. But the indivisible self is here, just poised between the word and what some people call emptiness. See, we call it fullness. Purnamadaha, Purnamidam, Purnat, Purnamudachate, Purnasya, Purnamadaya, Purnameva Vashistate. How many times do I have to tell you everything's full, everything's Brahman? Find a way to understand that. And don't end up at emptiness. Go beyond yoga to Mahayoga. Go beyond the body to the subtle body. And find out these secrets for yourself. You've heard them spoken, now find them out. Realize them yourself. You'll know when you're inspired all the time that has dawned on you. Isn't that what we said here? Remember yesterday? The one who engages in that practice that I've just taught you about, Samkriti, the Vedanta philosophy comes to him naturally. So that's the truth I was saying. Vedanta is the truth. Yoga is a practice. Tantra is worship. Samkhya is the study of evolutes. But Vedanta is the truth. So I'm a Vedantist. By philosophy, I'm a Vedantist. As a practitioner, I'm a yogi. As a worshiper, I'm a tantricist. And as a knower of tattvas, of principles, I'm a samkhyist. So this is the gift of India to all of us. So there you have it. You see, we've revisited this again as I thought about it. And I'm still thinking about it differently since about a week ago when I decided that this was a vision I just had to somehow put on a simple chart. As far as where we were yesterday, we were looking at the 5 kinds of dharana, remember? So dharana, 6th limb, dhyan. But we started out the very first words today at class were dhyan yoga, nugata pasyan. Te dhyan yoga, by the method of meditation, they realized the presence of the Devatma Shakti. So this is Raja Yoga. You see, Dhyan Yoga is Raja Yoga. So that's by meditating and being guided to meditate in the right way after you've got nonviolence, after you've got truth, after you're not coveting the goods of others, after you've become moderate in your appetites, after, look at all the 5 yamas and niyamas, after you've got those, then you can set yourself in a posture, you can breathe to even out your breathing, like this is a breath, waking, dreaming, and deep sleep is one huge breath. See, one lifetime is one huge breath in you. Lord Brahma creates, preserves, and destroys, that is, projects, sustains, and withdraws everything in one cosmic breath. So when you have that, then you know that everything is that connected or eternally connected, then pratyahara becomes easy for you. See, it is Brahman, isn't it? You see how it works? Then you don't have to go, oh, I have to withdraw myself from these objects, you see. Because by then you should know that all is Brahman. Your breath should be telling you this. It's your life force. But there's more to come. That's the thing. There's always further to go. A bird flies high in the sky, Sri Ramakrishna said, but it can always fly higher. It also has to rest on a branch. So those branches of yoga are there for you. Come down to rest for a while and then forge on, see, to that highest limb. You know the 2-bird story in the Upanishads. One bird on the lower limbs, one bird on the upper limbs. This one's eating fruit. They happen to be sometimes ripe, sometimes sour. So sometimes he feels good, sometimes he doesn't. This other bird's just sitting in the sun. Finally, this bird gets the idea. I think I'll join my brother in the sunshine and just be content. There are 32 points of immortal Dharma in the Bhagavad Gita, according to Sri Krishna. One of them is called, be content with anything, Arjuna. I like that one. You see, just be content with anything. The world can go to hell in a handbasket. That will not affect Brahman one iota. You should be absolutely certain of that. Because Brahman's the only reality. What happens when a dream goes away? It's like a bubble popping in the sky. So some people think that death, you'll become a wandering spirit. You see. Other people think that, oh, it's just like air in a jar. You see. The philosophers think, oh, when the jar is broken, the air inside will come with the air outside. So they're still thinking duality. You see. But I know the truth. Ram Prasad sings, we will be in the end what we were in the beginning, bubbles forming, rising, and dissolving in Mother's ocean of timeless awareness. So flip back the chart. That Brahman is this ocean of timeless awareness, and these little bubbles are forming in it. Sometimes big bubbles like the Trinity. And they all form there. They all sustain their lives there for a while, and then they all dissolve there, and nothing happened to the ocean. It didn't change its nature, it didn't change its scope, it didn't change its size, it didn't change its depths. It's boundless and eternal. We have a few words in English that work for describing it. So, just like you had this vision of the cosmic mind inside the witness, inside the Brahman effulgence, inside the Atman, inside of Brahman, Dattatreya is giving a vision of yoga in 5 positions to Samkriti. And he's already given him the 5 great words, right, for the elements, and told him where to put them. I'll tell you where to put them. Put the first ones from the feet to the knees, put the second ones to the knees to the waist, put the third one from the waist to the heart, put the fourth one from the heart to the third eye, and put the 5th one from the third eye to the crown, and say the words. Say the words with knowledge and with determination. Make your yesterday's imagination, turn it into today's vision. Then turn today's vision into tomorrow's realization. That's what my teacher told me. But if your ideal is that high, beyond the 5 elements, then your effort has to be tremendous. So these are minds that are thinking deeply, see, and like Samkriti and Dattatreya together. You've got a divine couple there, see, of an age when those two come together. It's not like birds of a feather flock together in the world. It's just like when two minds like this get together, then all the worlds begin to vibrate with new life, like when Sri Ramakrishna came to earth. Everything vibrated with new life. But their busy egos are running busy, saying, oh, look at this new discovery. But it's because the avatar appeared here that that discovery became revealed. Te Dhyan Yoga, Nugata Pasyan, Devatma Shakti. He brought the Devatma Shakti to view. So what do you think is going to happen? But you're not going to find the source of that happening? That God came to you, showed himself to you, brought the Devatma Shakti with him, showed her to you, sent his emissaries, the sons of Mother Kali to you, to scare away, frighten away all demons, lift all curtains, destroy all problems. And you must have the wherewithal and the strength to gaze upon this again, this vision of eternal truth, and embrace it. Take it in. Like I said, if you did it with your breath, then pratyahara would hardly be necessary. My teacher used to say, if we all knew who we were, the Atman, there would be no need for spiritual practice. He said that very rarely because the people sitting in front of him were Westerners who hadn't even begun to understand yoga yet. They were Vedanta 101 people. And Vivekananda brought that to us. But like I said, don't forget that when you count all of these spurious teachers that are trying to take the place of true teachers, don't forget that he brought the Raja Yoga commentary with the Vedanta. Why does that get overlooked in just 150 years? How we're falling into that kind of hypnotism. So it's not even a matter of credit where credit's due. It's a matter of just seeing what's in and staying current with it. 16 beings did that with him. 12 did it with Jesus, 8 with Buddha, and so forth. Shankara, some 20 or so. There it is, found it. See? And that was God at that time. They say the unity of all religions, right? It was Christianity that preached that best when Jesus was alive. It was India that preached that best when Buddha was alive, and so forth and so on. Because in each time, the Divine Mother, the Devatma Shakti, will give birth to these great souls, and that's what's happening at that time. That's religion, that's God at that time. It doesn't cancel out other religions, it invites them into it. And this is why their rivers flow into the ocean. If you're sitting on a mountain, oh, how beautiful. If you watch the sunset, sun god scratching his head. You saw the sun, but didn't see me. Saw the river flowing in the ocean, didn't get the idea, that there's the ocean of Brahman, it's just my own consciousness, and I'm a river, I should flow towards that and merge in it. May we always and ever be like mighty rivers flowing into the sea, losing all sense of name, form, and identity into the ocean of absolute reality. Om, peace, peace, peace. Now we'll take a break, and we have 5 minutes. Okay, then I can think of something more to say. So we took a look at these 5 elements. They're bijams, they're seed words. There you see, and we put them together symbolically with the human form, see? The sacred human form. Shiva himself is in a very mighty mudra right there. You might say there are asanas, but there are also mudras. So when Sri Ramakrishna once saw an English boy dressed in a sailor suit, and this boy was leaning against a tree with his foot cocked, against his, and the foot cocked, leg cocked like that, reminded him of Krishna, and he went into samadhi. Seeing an English boy in a sailor's costume sent him into samadhi. So this is this suggestion of spirituality of somebody who is deep, deep, deep into the knowing of Sri Krishna, the primeval soul, the Purushottama, the archetypical soul. So the archetype means there's a mudra for that. There's a word for that. There's a meaning to the word for that, and so forth. And this is just like dominoes falling, or cards shuffling. Or today maybe machine gun going off. See? It's that right back to the source when you see something in a mudra like that. So Shiva's mudra there, Nataraj, is very powerful. He's got his leg out. She's looking for it. The devotee is looking to take refuge in that foot. But as far as we're concerned, the other foot is just right there in earth. And above that, from knee to waist, is the element water. From waist to heart, fire. From heart to head, air. From head to crown, ether. So knowing the Sanskrit 3-letter words for those, like AUM, Om, those are the key words for those 5 elements. That's what they'll respond to. See? Like Tom, you see? Ramakrishna just said the sound of the bell is like Tom. You hit it, out comes the sound. Sound diffuses. Science is busy studying. Oh, the sound went somewhere. Well, actually, no, it went back into the bell. You're going the wrong direction. It's inherent in the bell. You forgot that. You went looking for it as it diffused out into space somewhere. So you didn't get to the real source of the sound at all. So that's the tendency of the outgoing senses and the people who have not controlled, purified their senses yet. It's a tendency of that. So they're caught in that natural outgoing tendency of the senses. But you hear pratyahara, I got to draw it back. Tortoise has to protect itself, see. And you can see that Dattatreya and other great teachers are talking about pratyahara, and Shankara talks about it the same way in the Vivekanchudamani, as it is, if I see it all as Brahman, it's already happened. See? I don't need to withdraw from it. I need just to witness it. Possibly, if I become a supreme witness, then I can celebrate it. But you're very careful to celebrate things that pass. Like birthdays. Yeah. Happy birthday. We say happy no birthday to you, Ajati. And may you never be born here again. Certainly not in ignorance. Should a man be reborn, they asked Swami Vivekananda, I certainly hope he will not till he can do so in full consciousness. So with that, let's take our break. Shall I turn this off?